Right. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. We are from Team Yassss, and today we would like to deep dive on the marine litter issue in Mersing Islands. Malaysia has seen a high amount of marine litter in Malaysia, and we are currently ranked the top 14 country globally, and third in Southeast Asia, with Singapore as the first and the Philippines as second. And this ranking goes by the items collected on the world beaches, and Malaysia has have found 4,193 items collected per annum. So the most of maritime disposal that we have found are plastics on our seas, which are namely the food wrappers, cutleries, bottle caps, and containers respectively. Next. The overall waste generated in Johor has been surging throughout the past 5 years, from 2015 to 2019, with a compounded annual growth rate of 71.45%. And this may eventually lead to an erosion of our Mersing Island with a fair amount of coral cover. So this coral cover is actually a common measure for the general reef health globally. And this statistics tells us that less than 50% of the seas in the Mersing Island is actually covered by coral, which indicates that Mersing is currently lacking of biological diversity. Another significant finding that we have found is that there is more than 568 kg of marine debris, which is found in Pantai Bandar Mersing only in the first quarter of 2022. Next. So these are the effects of marine litter to the environment in the eastern Johor archipelago, which can be abridged into 4 parts. Number 1, there is a marine life loss due to the marine fisheries that they consume hazardous chemicals by accident, and this brings a significant loss to our economy sector because fisheries in Mersing, they actually contribute to a total of 6% of the total agriculture production in Johor itself. And secondly, there will be a decrease in aesthetic standard of the ocean and beaches because Mersing serves as an ecotourism and coastal tourism in Johor, and it is close to the Endarompin National Park, which is a tourist attraction, and this indirectly decreases our job opportunities for the local population in Mersing as well. And thirdly, it is the potential hazardous chemicals which may seep into the water and end up endangering the rare species such as the turtles and the dugongs, which affects their lives, and this reduces our marine biodiversity as well. And lastly, the microplastics which are consumed by the fishes may end up going back to human beings ourselves because it goes up the food supply chain and it ends up in our bodies. Next. Right, so next, these are currently the various acts and regulations which governs marine debris in Malaysia, including the Local Government Act and the Amendment Legislation Act, and many more. And also several states with coastal waters legislation, and the most significant one we are looking at today is the Johor Port Authority Tanjung Pelepas Bylaw 2000. Next. So marine litter can be generally categorized to be caused by 3 main factors, which are the general pollution, solid waste, and cargo pollution, which are currently governed by the Environmental Quality Act, Solid Waste and Public Cleansing Management Act, and Merchant Shipping Ordinance respectively. And these are the various policies that are currently put in place by the Economic Planning Unit in Malaysia, and also various departments and ministries, such as the 12th Malaysia Plan, the Malaysian Roadmap to Zero Single Use, to ensure that marine mechanism in Malaysia is regulated effectively to reduce marine debris. Next. So as we all know, when there is human, there is trash. So the United Nations Environment Programme has actually identified tourism as a main contributor to marine debris, and fisheries as a second, due to the ghost gears that are prevalent in our seas. And the same case goes to oil and gas activities. So Mersing being considering Mersing, which is earmarked as focus on ecotourism and coastal tourism in Malaysia, and its role as an embarkation point to other islands, and it is a regional fisheries management organization in each state, including the state of Johor, which results in a gap in governance. Next, Malaysia has waste management systems that are inadequate for dealing with the amount of plastic waste produced. The main ways of dealing with plastic waste in this country are disposals in landfills and domestic burning. Making a simple calculation based on the statistics in this case study, by taking the average number, residents in Mersing district would have produced around 98,000 kilograms of waste per day, and it is certainly not helping that the current landfills are nearing their maximum capacity, and the ascertainment for new landfill sites is restricted by factors like land scarcity and also the potential impacts on the environment. Malaysia is also plagued by limited recycling capabilities, where only 3 out of the 7 categories of plastics are recyclable in this country. Moving on to the next point, the state governments face the lack of financial resources. So state budgetary resources are limited to fees and payments for licenses collected just within the state, and also the loans received from the federal government. So it is even more of such a case in the Mersing Islands, where the annual income of the Mersing District Council is the lowest in Johor, standing at a mere 11.3 million. Further, there's a lack of research and data on the issue of marine debris, as funds are usually channeled to issues and matters that are considered to be more pressing and matters that are more controversial. As we all know, adequate budget and manpower is needed for surveillance and enforcement. And as discussed before, state governments often face the insufficiency of funds, and it follows that this would be the case in the Mersing district too. This issue also plagues the MMEA, being the enforcement agency. So despite having 19 NCS to organize patrols along the coast, 8 aircraft and 136 patrol vessels, it is admitted that only 60% of them are operational at a given time. Despite improvements over the years, this remains a vexatious issue, and this has caused a gap in enforcement and detection of any breach of law in this area. So although we have punishments and penalties in place to tackle issues like oil spills and ghost gas, due to these inherent enforcement issues, its deterrent effect is tremendously weakened following the modern deterrence theory. So as with the ineffectiveness of the law, while the scope of the Environmental Quality Act 1974 is wide as it deals with different sources of marine pollution, a significant limitation of this statute is its jurisdictional limit, where it's only limited to Malaysia's territorial waters within 12 nautical miles. So the problem is that fisheries, in particular deep sea fishing and oil and gas activities, happen beyond this boundary, falling out of the ambit of this act. This renders this form of control ineffective in tackling the issue of marine litter. I shall now yield the floor to Queen, who will be touching on the recommendation.
So coming to the recommendations, an enhanced waste management system are required to offer a strategic management of disposals. So on that note, there are actually a few ways that we can deploy. So the first will be utilizations of waste tracks. So in simple words, a waste track system aims to block waste from going to sea from the river. So we can, one of the notable waste track systems that has been implemented that we can benchmark against is the community-based recycling for a Litter-Free Mediterranean project by Nature Conservative Center and UNDP. So in that system, some of the water in the streams has been directed to the filtering elements via the barriers, and from that, the solid waste in the water will be trapped in the barriers. And second, waste management strategies have to be geared towards sustainability. This can be done through the conversions of irrecyclable waste into heat electricity, as well as fuel via microorganisms or biological processes. So some of the examples are anaerobic digestions, plasma gasifications, as well as bioremediations. So moving on to our next point, the incorporations of technologies and facilities can be done through two ways. So the first will be through recycling technologies. So there are actually various forms of recycling technologies that we can employ. So some of them are mechanical recycling, chemical recycling, thermic methods, as well as waste to energy technologies. And moving on to the next point, we should encourage the use of compostable plastics as well. So essentially, compostable plastic are produced from renewable materials such as corn, potato, tapioca starches, cellulose, and etc. So it will decompose back to the form of carbon dioxide, water, and biomass when it is composted. So in that sense, it will reduce harm to the wildlife and ecosystem. Next step. So regulatory reforms are also recommended to elevate the current measures. So we should encourage research and development by increasing the areas of research and align government agencies' roles to better deliver research outcomes. And moving on to the next point, there are actually a few economic instruments that can be utilized by governments as well. So first, the government can impose tax on companies that actually produce plastics, and this is to incentivize the disposals of debris. And second, we can impose infrastructure charges of use of port waste facilities, aid in development and maintenance of waste management infrastructure and facilities. And third, we can implement the deposit refund schemes. So essentially, these kind of schemes are mostly used in packaging products like bottles and plastic. So in this way, we can encourage consumers to return and reuse them, and hence reducing the amount of litter ending up as debris. Next point, please. So moving on, education and awareness are important as well. So we can actually raise public awareness, and we should raise public awareness and foster self-responsibility. This could be done by incorporating more social awareness as part of the compulsory education on the effects of marine debris and marine pollutions in school. And it has to be accompanied by the establishment of adequate disposal and recycling infrastructure. And besides, we can also encourage companies to advocate sustainability agenda in their long-term recovery and growth plans. So the government could provide fiscal and financial incentive for businesses to obtain ESG ratings from approved agencies or rating companies. Apart from that, the government can also introduce double income tax deductions for expenses incurred in either adopting ESG or improving ESG performance. And last but not least, we must also educate consumers and investors on the benefits of supporting businesses that are actually way ahead in ESG. So coming to our last point, clear jurisdiction management. So it is vital for us to streamline the roles of key institutions like the Department of National Waste, Solid Waste Management, federal and state departments of environment, local government, towns and country planning, marines and fisheries. You should have clear jurisdictions over marine debris management, as this allows for policy, legislative, as well as institutional changes to be implemented to improve the governance framework. So coming to the end of our presentations, the call to actions of our paper is that it is essential for all stakeholders to jointly address the marine pollution in Mersing district, and immediate actions are required to deflect the current trajectory to a more sustainable pathway towards a cleaner environment. And that's all from Team Yassss. Thank you.